Migrants here in San Antonio now part of a national focus after a flight funded by the state of Florida took migrants from San Antonio to Martha's Vineyard, one of several transportations like that taking migrants all across the country. To talk about that more, we've got San Antonio Mayor Ron Nirenberg joining us for today's Q&A. Mayor, thanks for being here as always this evening. We know that there is now a criminal investigation that the Bexar County Sheriff's Office has opened looking at whether migrants were lured onto that flight. But can you talk about whether there are any city resources being used to look into this?
So I do know there's a lot of questions being asked right now, and I understand that the Bexar County Sheriff has opened an investigation. Important thing for folks to know about the Migrant Resource Center and migrants and asylum seekers to begin with is that they are not in custody. So when you are processed and go through the legal channels to seek asylum, you are not in federal custody. So the work that the Migrant Resource Center is doing to help ensure folks are treated humanely and that there is transfer to their next destination, whether that's with family or with a sponsor family, that's done on a voluntary basis. It's done in an organized manner. And frankly, the folks that are coming want and need that help. But unfortunately, as we've seen, potentially under false pretenses, some of these migrants have been transported to a place where they didn't know or were promised things that they didn't get. So that's dismaying, obviously, to take advantage of other people's plight, especially those seeking refuge in our country, has to be the height of moral bankruptcy. To make a political point off of people's plight, people's misery, people's need to seek refuge is shameful.
And that's part of the process in this whole thing. These people aren't being detained. They're asking for asylum. They're being processed through the system. They're being processed partly in San Antonio, and they are not, like you said, they're not detained. They're not held someplace. I mean, they can come and go as they please, and that seems to be where they're being approached by some of these people. I mean, is there a way to coordinate this? I mean, have you reached out to some of these places that want to take? I mean, we heard from the New York mayor this weekend who said he's reached out to the governors of Texas and Florida and Arizona and said, can we coordinate these things better? I mean, have you had any of those conversations?
Well, that's the whole point of what's taking place at the border, is to process folks so that they have travel plans already ready to go. And frankly, the work of Homeland Security to ensure that there are proper resources in place to get folks to their next destination, to their sponsor families or to their families that are here, that's what's taking place. So this political stunt, which I think is the best way to characterize it, to get folks to go someplace else on the promise of work or lodging or whatever they were saying, is simply disruptive to the entire coordinated effort. Remember that what's been happening here with the Migrant Resource Center has been happening for years under multiple administrations. We are seeing a surge. We see surges now and then. But in order to get this done in a coordinated way that's least disruptive to the rest of the community, we have a consolidated facility, and that's proven to be a model, frankly, for other communities that can be efficient and help control some of the disruption. But again, those folks are not detained. They're here going through a legal process, and they have a right to go if they so choose. And it appears, at least in this case, some of them are saying, and I hope an investigation will bear out, that they have been lured away under false pretenses, which is disruptive to the entire coordinated effort.
Let's talk about how this Migrant Resource Center works. It's an old CPS Energy facility off of San Pedro. We had a live report from our Alicia Barrera, who was out there earlier, talking about how people can stay there for 3 days. They're given wristbands to identify them. But the reality is that a lot of people, they don't have the ride to go wherever they are trying to get to in that time. So what happens to those people?
So the vast majority of folks that are brought have been processed and have travel plans already arranged. And that's the ideal situation that HSI or that the Homeland Security has been working towards to make sure that, this is a way station. It's not the ultimate destination. These folks are trying to get to the next place, which is with the family or sponsor family. The vast majority have that, and their next stop would be either the bus depot or the airport, where they're getting a flight to that next destination. And that travel has been arranged. That travel is coordinated. In the event that we get migrants who do not have those travel plans arranged, we're working with nonprofits to ensure that those travel plans are then processed when they get here. That's a little bit tougher, and it creates a bottleneck at times that unfortunately stretches some of the capacity. But we deal with those things also. When you have people who are taking advantage of the situation to make a political point, or, again, sending folks in here to lure people away, to promise them to go someplace and have whatever it is, a job or a place to stay lined up under false pretenses, that's when things get disrupted. And unfortunately, you have to wonder if some of these things are being done to score political points, but also being done purposefully to disrupt an already difficult situation. We're going to continue to do what we do, which is to treat people humanely, work with compassion, coordinate with nonprofits, as well as the faith community and the city departments that have been involved to help minimize disruption to the rest of the community and ultimately get folks who are here legally onto their next destination.
So, Mayor, who is running and funding that center? I think it's helpful to explain exactly what is happening there and how it works.
Well, it is. So it's a coordinated effort, and it is entirely funded 100% on reimbursement through FEMA. To stand up the center, we had multiple departments. We have multiple departments always involved. That includes human services from the city of San Antonio, as well as shelter operations from the fire department, and a number of different nonprofits that work in these kinds of relief activities. Very soon, that the running of the Migrant Resource Center, which has been scheduled to transfer over to Catholic Charities from the very beginning, very soon that handoff will be made. But it will continue to be a coordinated effort between city departments, as well as the shelter emergency operation crews and those nonprofits that are weighing in. This is unfortunately the result. What you are seeing is the result of lack of action on immigration reform over decades at the federal level. What we're doing here in San Antonio is to treat people humanely who are here legally, again, seeking asylum, seeking refuge in our country. We're dealing with that in a way that helps coordinate it, to treat people with compassion and minimize disruption to the rest of the community. So this is what it looks like. It's difficult work, it's coordinated work, but the folks that are involved in here, from the faith community to the nonprofits to the city departments, are good at it. And we will do it so long as we have to. But there is no alternative here that doesn't require even more disruption to the community.
Right. Immigration issues didn't just begin yesterday. Mayor Ron Nirenberg, appreciate your time as always.